Let's do this. Let's talk about reviewing Vancouver versus Minnesota Game 2 on August 4th. Now, the Canucks won this one 4-3 over the Wild. The best-of-5 series is now tied 1 game apiece. Minnesota won the last game 3-0 with 2 power play goals and 1 empty netter. And there wasn't any changes player-wise for the Wild, but there was for the Canucks. Now, we all thought Jake Virtanen would draw back into the lineup. He replaced Gaudette, who looked a little nervous with the puck in the last game. The real interesting one was Vancouver scratching Tyler Toffoli, a player who they traded from the LA Kings, a Stanley Cup champion, who was inserted into their top 6 and was basically a point-per-game player during the regular season after he arrived. I mean, he was a ghost last game, so that's the reason why I would assume Louis Eriksson, who played in his place, that will reverse for Game 3. Now, Canucks got to Minnesota right off the bat, like I want to say 24 or so seconds in the game to really, start the tempo of the game. Minnesota came back hard for 5 minutes, and then Vancouver slowly started to take over. A lot of it had to do with some of the penalties that were called. Yeah, they called those things in this game. They were very by the book, as opposed to the last game. The series kind of mirrors Toronto versus Columbus when it comes to the refereeing wise and how they're calling stuff. But yeah, Vancouver slowly took a hold. Shots at the end of the first were 10-9 for Vancouver. Shots at the end of the second were 20-18 for Vancouver. But Minnesota really put the pedal to the metal in the last half or so of the third period to make this game really close. 2 players got injured in this one. Michael Furland, surprise! And I don't know why. He disappeared in the first period off the bench and never came back. You remember he had that fight early on in the last game. Of course, we all know how many concussions this guy has had in his career, so hopefully he's okay. But if you're not coming back after being pulled in the first, one might worry. You would assume that Virtanen would directly take his place for the next game. Now, Roussel also left the game with a puck to the face that was deflected right up into his visor. He was all bloodied. There was a lot of pucks to the face today in a bunch of games, especially that Winnipeg-Calgary game. There was like 5 or 6 players who went down. 2 of them, at least 2 or 3, with pucks to the face. One guy came back with a cage on his face, and he was just bleeding throughout the game down his neck. It was, wow, yeah, a war zone out there. So you might even see, if Furlan isn't coming back, you could see English. You could see both Virtanen and Eriksson stay in the game and Tyler Toffoli draw in as well. Maybe even Gaudette too if Roussel doesn't come back. Now, my stars of the game for Vancouver were JT Miller, who blocked shots. He scored a goal. He did everything for a guy, especially with one without a letter on his chest. And Pettersson really bounced back in this game in the sense that he got bullied really bad in the last matchup, and he kind of fought back a little bit. He gave Hartman a good shove at one point in which his head kind of somewhat got bounced off the ice later on. We all know how everyone loves Hartman so much. He's a real agitator. I think he'll be back. He looked a little dazed and confused, but he should be okay. Now, the big difference in this game was Vancouver just had better finish. They worked harder. They were completing passes. They looked really good in the offensive zone. And Minnesota just didn't have... Their defense didn't look as stingy. They were letting in guys behind them, down the wing. Vancouver got a lot of guys screening Stalock as well, whom number-wise had a horrible game, but if you look at some of the goals, you can't. It's hard to blame them all fully on him. Markstrom, on the other hand, he had a good game, although it didn't end too well. The first shot, maybe he wants back, but he looked good for big portions of this matchup. Now, let's take a look at the box score real quickly. The shots ended up 35-28 for the Wild. They were behind after each of those periods. So, yeah, face-off win percentage, Vancouver dominated this category again, 63-37%. Power play, Minnesota was 0 for 6. Remember, they scored a couple of power play goals last game. Yeah, so Vancouver's penalty kill really improved. But Vancouver's power play needed 7 opportunities to score 1 goal, which I think they got at the very end there. Minnesota did score a shorthanded goal, which we'll get to in a second. Penalty minutes were 16-14 for the Wild. Hits were 37-19 for Minnesota, who during the regular season is one of the lowest hitting teams. Blocks were 13-10 for Vancouver, probably mostly done by Tanev and JT Miller. And Antoine Roussel with his face. And then giveaways were 16 apiece. Now, when it comes to the goalie stats, Stalock stopped 24-28 shots with an 8.57 save percentage. Markstrom stopped 32 of 35 with a 9.14. Period to period, the goals went like this. Tanner Pearson scored with 24 seconds in with a nice wrister from the top of the circle. That was assisted by Horvat and Edler. Luke Kunin then scored at the end of the first period for Minnesota. That was assisted by Parise and Suter. By the way, I didn't tell you my Wild stars of the game were Kunin and Fiala. And part of the reason is because both those guys looked very dangerous all day long. The second period, JT Miller made it 2-1 for Vancouver. He scored a goal unassisted. That was 3 minutes in. Then Brock Besser finally scores a goal. Where is this guy in his lethal shot? Finally puts one in, assisted by Pedersen and Edler. That's Edler's second point of the night, by the way. And in the third period, where there were 6:22 in, Horvat scores. That's assisted by Quinn Hughes and JT Miller. That's Miller's second point of the game. And then with less than 3 minutes left, Kevin Fiala puts in a bullet that hits a crossbar, 2 crossbars, and goes out. They had to check the replay for that one. It was still smoking when they found it on the ice to make it 4-2 for Vancouver. And then with less than a minute left, less than 50 seconds or so left in the game, Fiala scores another very similar goal, a rocket, for his third of the playoffs, second of the game. That was assisted by Dumba and Stull. Nice way to finish for Minnesota. We'll see if that carries on into the next game. Fiala just, wow. Remember they traded this guy for Granlund. Nashville, that is. Yeah. Surprising. He's been their best player for quite some time, though, if you've been following them at all. There you have it. I would love to hear what you thought of this game, especially you Minnesota and Vancouver fans, down in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to hit like, subscribe, smack that notification bell, which will alert you when my next video comes out. Before I go, I just wanted to say, please be kind to each other out there in this bizarro land that we're living in right now, and I will see you soon.